You know when a company really listens to its audience, when they create something simple and something modest like this. Fuji are releasing a lot today. So you've got the brand new X-T50, which is very much their beginner orientated camera. And it's got a whole suite of new features. Let's have a look at it. The camera is beautiful. You've got the normal dials that you've got across the top to control your shutter speed and everything like that, but they've actually added something new. There's a film simulation dial now, and this allows you to quickly and easily change between different film simulations for you to be able to get those great JPEGs just straight out of camera. And this is a very clever move from Fujifilm here, as one of the biggest things about the Fuji cameras are, of course, the film simulations. So is this kind of directed towards people that are looking at the X100 VI and giving them a different option? Come back to this a little bit later. Of course, with this, you've got the 40 megapixel sensor, so the image quality is sharp and precise, and it's the same with the lens there as well. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, there's a new lens with this camera, and that's 16 to 50mm f2.8 to 4 RLM-WR, for those of you that know what that means. Its components are entirely internal, so it doesn't actually expand and contract, which is great for weather resistance just in general. They have dropped the optical stabilization, but because you've got 7 stops inside of the camera, does that really matter? I don't know. And whilst we're talking about IBIS, it performs really well, and especially for video. The video specs of this camera is 6.2K, 10-bit 422. You got 4K at 60 and then downsampled 4K in here. So this is also a great video camera as well as a photo camera. The overall design is just very elegant. As you can see, it's got an entirely new curve to the actual grip, and you know what? I'm just excited to go out and shoot with this camera. So let's go in and around this area, take some photos to see what it's actually like. I'm actually really impressed with the lens as well. It's actually really smooth to operate. Although it doesn't come in and out, what you do have is a moving segment there, which, because it doesn't have a filter on, you know, you might get some water or sand in the mechanism, but it's something I wouldn't necessarily worry about. Fujifilm are great in terms of just their build quality alone. I don't think it's going to be something that's really going to hinder your experience with this camera, personally, but you know, that's kind of up to you to decide. So we are here and there's a lot of wildlife around. What I do want to do is actually shoot a little bit more out and about with a longer lens. So I'm going to actually put a 70-300 on here to get some, you know, hopefully get some wildlife, because I've heard the wildlife here is quite cool. Going to be going on to the safari in a second and then food in the evening. We've now attached this to the X-T50 itself. What do you reckon? I'm going to show you kind of how I've attached it. The X-T50 just reiterates upon feedback that Fuji have gotten over the years. It improves, it adapts, and it changes, and it creates something that ultimately just works. Of course, you've got the 40 megapixel APS-C size sensor, the new design, which just looks beautiful and it feels great in my hands, even with them being bigger. Of course, it's a compact and lightweight design, designed really for the budding travel photographer and people that just want to go out and shoot and simply just take photos. They've learned a lot from the X100 and understand why people like that, really, and they've just started putting these settings, these things that the X100 is good at, in the other cameras. So of course you do have access to all the new film simulations in it. And with that, they've gone one further and given you quicker access to all of the different film simulations at your fingertips, which means just creating photos out of the camera, you're going to get excellent quality images. And this is it at the end of the day, is why would you look at something like an X-T50? Ideally, you want something that looks good, something that takes excellent photos, that can do anything you really need it to. Of course, it's nice to have the great video specs with 6.2K at 30 frames a second, the 4K 60, and it's also got 4K downsampled as well. So the clarity that you get out of the video quality is fantastic. You don't necessarily need it to be any better realistically. Of course, you do have the image stabilization, and with that you've got 7 stops all in all, which gives you a great amount of latitude to really play with and make sure that you nail the shots that you're looking to get. And with that, they're talking about having greater ISO potential. So I think what would actually be really good is actually taking this thing when it gets dark, banging up the ISO to see if the JPEGs just out of camera really do work and are still postable. I think when it comes to APS-C, and something that they get hit on a lot is the fact that the ISO performance isn't going to be as fantastic as a full frame camera, and it's going to be interesting to try out. The Fujifilm cameras hasn't gone the way of every other camera manufacturer with the flip screens either, and even in this sort of like traveler setup as well, it doesn't need to. It's about enjoying photography and video and being in that moment, not necessarily taking photos of yourself. You do have the capability to take photos of yourself, but it's not the most important thing there is. The other thing that they're talking about is a much better autofocus system here as well, and we haven't had much in way of subjects to actually shoot here today for the autofocus, but the subjects I have shot with it, you know, it's hit the target and hit it pretty well. This does of course shoot 20 frames per second with the electronic shutter, which realistically is all you ever really need. Did I get it? I just got a photo of a bird. It just landed there. Sorry. Useless distractions. Overall, it comes in 3 kit variants. The standard kit is $13.99. The new kit is $14.49, and then the body only is $12.99. It may not necessarily be in your budget new camera area, but it comes to a slightly higher spec model, which is kind of in between your higher end like the X-T5, the X-T100 series. This camera really fills in a solid gap, and it's an excellent camera all in all. If you like this video, make sure you like, follow and subscribe if you want to see more. Have a good day. This has been a really awesome experience overall. Got to check out some really cool camera tech, and wow, I think the last thing to really mention is the view. Look at that.